Hello, Accelerated Math 6-7 students. This is Module 5, and we are looking at lesson, we're looking at lesson 3, and it's called Volume of Right Rectangular Prisms. So I'm going to turn there. You turn to your page to get started. Sorry about the announcement in our video. Okay. So volume of right rectangular prisms. Our goal for today. Today we will practice finding the volume of three-dimensional figures. The question that I want you to think about in this lesson is, what specific thing must you remember when working with volume? Things to remember. First thing that I want to ask you to start thinking about is, what is volume? What does it mean? When you're trying to find the volume of something, what is it that we're looking for? So let's review a little bit. Area means the space that's available for two-dimensional figures, right? So what would volume represent? If area represents two-dimensional figures, what does volume represent? And if you came up with the idea that volume represents the area available for three-dimensional figures, you're right, okay? So what is volume? We're going to write the space available for a three-dimensional figure. Okay, the space available for a three-dimensional figure. And what we're talking about, for example, is if we had a rectangular prism that looked something similar to this right here. That's a three-dimensional figure. So we're talking about how much space is inside there, okay? So volume represents the amount of space available in a three-dimensional figure, okay? How do you find the volume of a three-dimensional shape? Well, it's very simple as long as you remember where we started with. So if it's a rectangular prism, what it means is that you have a rectangle and you find the area of the rectangle. So the first thing we have to do is find the area of the rectangle. And then what you need to envision of a rectangular prism is it just means that it's long, okay? What I like to think about it as is envision a stick of butter, okay? So, and this space is not very big, so I'll try to draw a stick of butter. But pretend this is a stick of butter, okay? If we were to take a butter knife and we were to take that butter knife and cut slices off the stick of butter, then those number of slices would tell you how long the stick of butter is. And when you know how long the stick of butter is, you're finding the volume. So what you do is you take the area of the face, this is called a face because it's a rectangle, so you find the area of the rectangle, and then you multiply it however many times you would be able to cut off one of those faces, or you multiply it by this distance right here, okay? And what that distance is usually called is called the depth, or the height of the prism, the length of the prism, the distance of the prism. So you're going to take the area of the rectangle because that's the shape that we have, and then you're going to multiply it by its length as a prism. So this length is telling you about the prism part, okay? The area of the rectangle is telling you what kind it is. So this is a rectangular prism, okay? So you find the area of the rectangle, and then you multiply it by the length that makes it into a prism, okay? So let's look at these diagrams down here, because these diagrams down here are going to help you. So finding volume. We have a three-dimensional figure. This one happens to be a rectangular prism because you see the rectangle right here. This right here on this diagram is called width. So see, it can be many different names. So what we would have to do is we would find the area of this rectangle that you see right here. You're going to find the area of that first, right? And then you're going to multiply it by how long the figure is. And I'm going to make it a different color so you can see it. So we multiply it by how long it is, okay? So that's what we have. So we have The first way to find it is you're looking at the shape and we're taking the length times the height, and then the final step is to multiply it by the width according to this picture. Another way that you can write it is what we were talking about up here, is you would take the area of the rectangle, so we're going to call that a big B for base. So we're going to take the area of the base, so big B, times the length or the height, and so we write big B times H, okay? Please don't panic about this, okay? Either way will help you find the answer. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. Usually we use this model with elementary grades. This model right here is what we use when we start getting into the older grades, so the middle school or the high school. Middle school or high school uses this. Elementary grades uses this. Whichever way you're comfortable is what I will accept. So let's give it a try. Here's a three-dimensional figure, and it has some numerical values. So it says find the volume of the rectangular prism. So if we mirror what we did over here, remember, please come to the front office immediately. You're going to find the area of the base first. So remember, this is the base right here. So we would take 5 times 2, and then you're going to multiply it by its distance. And this is the distance. So we would multiply it by 8. Okay? Or if we're using this one, what is the area of the base? Well, 5 times 2 is 10. Very good. So you would put 10 there, and then you would multiply it by the distance, which is 8. So now watch. This is the coolest part. What is 5 times 2? You already know. It's 10. What is 10 times 8? You already know. It's 80. So according to this one, it's 80 centimeters. And how many are we multiplying together? We're multiplying 3. So volume means you have to use the 3 because you're multiplying 3 things together. So 2 have already been multiplied here, so you just finish it up. It reduces one of your steps. 8 times 10 is 80, and you come up with the exact same answer, remembering that volume is cubed, okay? So it's actually, finding volume is really, really simple. As long as you remember, you're looking for the shape of the prism, okay? These both happen to be rectangles because that's the shape, and then that tells you the prism part. This is the shape, and that tells you the prism part. So you take the area of the base or the shape, and you multiply it by its distance. So let's go back to our goal. Our goal for today we will practice finding the volume of three-dimensional figures. The question that I wanted you to think about was, what specific thing must you remember when working with volume? The specific thing that you must remember when you're working with volume is that there are 3 things being multiplied. Length times height times width. That's 3 things. The area of the base, so you did length times width, and then you multiplied it by the height. So it's 3 things. It's cubed rather than squared. So remember, volume is cubed. Volume is cubed because you're multiplying 3 things together. Okay? And that's all I have for you. We're going to practice it in some of our packets. Okay? All right. I will talk to you later. Bye.